What's up, everybody? This is Brandon from the A-Team, and thank you for coming to our announcement of the Lightstorm 600X Pro, the newest addition to the Lightstorm family and the LS600 series. Many of you may have guessed what this product was when we said in our teaser, you're getting warmer. Yes, the 600D Pro is getting warmer with the addition of this bicolor chipset that allows it to go from 2700 Kelvin all the way up to 6500 Kelvin, just like the LS300X. Now, before we get into all the details about the light, because of course we're going to cover every nitty-gritty detail, please mention where you're from in the comments below, and any questions you have, mention them down there as well. Myself, Ian Brightman, Toy will be down in the chat answering any questions you might have about this product or any of the other things that we're mentioning today. Before that, without further ado, let's roll into the highlight reel. So let's get started. Yes, this is the LS600X Pro. Let's start out with an overview of what this product is. There's a lot of details, just like with the LS600D Pro, its other brother in the Lightstorm family. You have the ability to achieve 18,500 lux at 3 meters with the f10 Fresnel in spot mode. You have the ability to output 5,600 lux at 3 meters with the LS600 series hyperreflector, and a list of other amazing features that come with the 600X Pro, including and mainly pertaining to its bicolor functionality. Everything about the 600X Pro started from the 600D Pro. That includes the design of the lamp head, the design of the control box, and every Pro feature therein after, including the weatherproof head cable, which we made longer. Yes, this is a 7.5 meter weatherproof head cable that is included with the LS600X Pro. And then, of course, you have the control box with all our smart features and advanced LCD display. We'll get into that in a little bit. But primarily, yes, this is a bicolor fixture, and it's a bicolor fixture because part of the Lightstorm series that works with optical modifiers, which we'll get into in a little bit as well. So chapter 2, we're talking about photometrics of the LS600X Pro. How bright is this light really? Because you may be wondering, this is a bicolor light, so therefore compared to the 600D Pro, it won't be quite as bright. So what output can I actually expect from it? And that's a great question. So let's start off by comparing it to a few of the other members of the Lightstorm family, starting off with the LS300X. So the LS300X with the Fresnel 2X modifier on it to give it that little extra oomph has an output of 2200 lux at 3 meters at 3200 Kelvin, and an output of 2800 lux at 3 meters with the 5600 Kelvin. And of course, in the commercial we said the 600X Pro is twice as bright as the 300X, and that's pretty much exactly what you're getting. The 600X Pro with the f10 Fresnel can achieve an output of 5060 lux at 3 meters, and at daylight, you're able to get up to 7,070 lux with the f10 Fresnel at 45-degree flood. So the 600X Pro is still able to punch really high above its class with that bicolor chipset, because that means the 600X Pro is about 60% of the output of the LS600D Pro with the f10 Fresnel, which of course reaches 11,440 lux at 3 meters. This light is still able to give you a lot of punch, significantly more than the 300X was already able to give you, and in a form factor that is professional, that is weatherproof, and has a load of professional level controls. So how does the 600X Pro compare against other lights not made by Aputure? At a distance of 3 meters, the LS600X Pro, comparing to the Airy Orbiter with the 60-degree reflector at 3200 degrees Kelvin and 5600 degrees Kelvin, the Orbiter achieves an output of 1800 lux and 2333 lux respectively. So with different reflectors with the Orbiter, you are able to get more output, but this is the wider setting for the reflectors of the Orbiter because they do not have a Fresnel. And as you can see, it is granted a much brighter output light, 600 watts versus 420 watts. The 600X Pro does blow the Orbiter out of the water. Now going into traditional filament lights like the Airy T2 Tungsten, the studio version with a 10-inch Fresnel, and the Arri D5, which is a 575 watt HMI Fresnel, this is how it compares. The 600X Pro with the F10 Fresnel still does manage to eke out against the Arri Studio T2, which is a 10-inch tungsten 2K Fresnel, and it blows away the Arri D5, which is a 575 watt HMI. So again, comparisons against traditional filament lights is really difficult, but the 600X Pro with the F10 Fresnel still manages to punch way above its weight class. And of course, we would be remiss to not include a comparison to the Joker 2 400 and Joker 2 800. So respectively, the Joker 2 400 can eke out about 2300 lux to 2500 lux, depending which of these two wide lenses you put on it. And then the Joker 800, of course, does punch really well with the frosted Fresnel at 3100 lux and the super wide flood at about 5560 lux. So again, the 600X Pro is still able to compete with each of these lights when used with the F10 Fresnel, and that's a really good combination that you're going to want to use when you need that high punchy output. Now let's talk about the color science of the 600X. The 600X, like all of our products, we really believe in achieving as high quality of a color science as we can with each of our lights, because to get high output by itself is not super important if you can't also achieve a quality of light that is usable on set. So of course, we're able to hit our usual standards of CRI and TOCI scores above 95, in this case above 96 even, and with an SSI score in D56 at 74 and an SSI tungsten of 85. This means we are still getting rich colors, especially in tungsten, that 85% color rendition compared to an actual tungsten light source when comparing the spectrums directly. Now, how does the 600X work as a bicolor unit? It is a point source unit, so therefore we have to blend the chipset together to create one cohesive source that is able to be used with optical modifiers. So this means we had to opt for a blended bicolor chipset that uses the same concepts and technology that we found in the LS300X. So using an optical blending prism, we combine the colors of a bunch of CSP LEDs to optimize it for use with optical modifiers like the F10 Fresnel. This is something that not all point source bicolor LEDs can actually do because they don't properly blend all the colors together. The interfacing controls is what really makes the 600X Pro a professional level light. First of all, you have your advanced LCD display. So this, like the 600D Pro, is one of the more advanced LCD displays that we have. It allows you to show a lot more detail and see everything that you need at your fingertips, including your brightness control, which you can control from 0 to 100% in 0.1% increments. This detailed LCD display also displays everything from your CCT wheel and your intensity wheel. You can see on screen here and on the light unit itself, the CCT wheel is a visual CCT wheel that allows you to see exactly where on the color curve your color is ending, where your CCT, when you're cooler, you end up blue, and then when your CCT is warmer, you skew towards the orange. And this is just a really nice visual representation rather than just seeing numbers bounce across the board, because as filmmakers, we're visual learners, we're visual storytellers. Visuals are really important. And of course, just like the 600X Pro, our LCD screen is adaptive brightness. So that means in bright environments, the LCD will light up brighter, and in darker environments, so it doesn't disrupt your scene, it will turn down the brightness of the screen. So moving on, we have, of course, the output modes available to the LS600X Pro. This is something that we first designed and implemented in the LS300X, and of course, we brought it to its bigger brother. So we have two output modes, constant output mode and max output mode. With constant output mode, you're going to be guaranteed identical illuminance throughout the entire color temperature range, whereas with max output mode, we're aiming to optimize the intensity given whatever CCT value you have chosen. So for example, if you're performing an on-screen gag where you want the color temperature to change in the scene, but you don't want your f-stops to change, you don't want your brightness of any subject to change, you're going to want to choose constant output mode. So this means if I'm transitioning from 2700 Kelvin all the way to 5600 Kelvin, the intensity is going to stay exactly the same as long as I'm in constant output mode. However, if I am in max output mode, as I ramp up from 2700 Kelvin to 5600 Kelvin, the intensity is going to increase because 5600 Kelvin is where our photometrics shine the brightest. Going forward, we also have a new addition to the 600X Pro, but this is something that we also had in the Nova P300C. This is frequency selection. This frequency selection allows you to fine-tune your PWM, your pulse width modulating dimmer, between 30 kilohertz to 32 kilohertz. This means when you're shooting at higher frame rates or you're shooting at odd shutter angles, you're able to tune out some of that flickering and banding that you might find in your shot from the 600X Pro. No Aputure light would be complete without Sidus link compatibility, and more specifically, the 600X Pro launches with Sidus Pro effects built in. This includes Magic Program, manual effects, picker effects, music effects. The 600X Pro allows you to unlock the entirety of the Sidus link ecosystem. Speaking of capabilities and control methods for the 600X Pro include a variety of options. Just like the 600D Pro, you have your onboard control knobs for intensity and color temperature. You also have the 2.4 gigahertz remote control that has been included in pretty much every single Lightstorm light since the beginning of the Lightstorm product line for the 120D, the 300D, the 300X, the 600D Pro, and the 600X Pro. All of these lights can use that 2.4 gigahertz remote control for easily toggling them on and off and easily adjusting brightness on the fly without having to get out your phone, without having to get out a DMX console. But if you are so inclined, you can also use 5-pin XLR DMX512 compatibility. You have your in and out ports on the bottom of the unit, 5-pin DMX in and out. And if you are super fancy, you can go wireless DMX with the built-in Lumen Radio module that allows you to connect to your existing Luminaire, Lumen Radio wireless DMX setup. And for those of you who need that level of control, but also want a little bit more of that stability, we have ArtNet and SACN compatibility and integration via the Ethernet port that you see on the side of the 600X Pro. Speaking of DMX modes, with every product, with every iteration, we get a little bit more advanced, and we're bringing all these features to our other lights as well. But starting off with the 600X Pro, the 600X Pro has 2 DMX profiles in it because this is something that was asked for by a lot of our professional users. They said, for these lights, I don't always want to use 5 channels or 6 channels. Sometimes I want to be able to simply dumb down the light to the lowest capabilities so I can take up as few channels as possible. So that's why we introduced 2 DMX modes and 2 DMX profiles. The 2-channel DMX profile, which is just intensity and CCT control, and then the 6-channel DMX profile, which allows you to unlock the effects channels inside the LS600X Pro. And of course, we also introduced DMX loss behavior because nothing's worse than when you lose DMX control on set and you don't know what your light is doing. So you can choose one of 4 behaviors for the LS600X Pro, including immediately blacking out, fading to black gradually, or holding your last settings for 2 minutes and then fading out. Depending on the type of environment you're in, you may want to choose any one of these 4. So for example, most of the time you'll be using holding your last settings to make sure that the light doesn't turn off as soon as it loses signal, especially if you're using wireless DMX. Or if you're in a live entertainment environment, you maybe want it to hold for 2 minutes and then fade out to black so it doesn't interrupt any of your other lighting sequences. Now, how do you go about powering the 600X Pro? The 600X Pro is a powerful light with its 600-watt bicolor chipset, but it only has a 720-watt max power draw, just like the 600D Pro. Now, if you're a battery manufacturer, that number scares you, but if you're any other filmmaker, you're saying 720 watts, I can put 2 of those on a 15-amp circuit, and I'll be good to go. So looking at the power solutions for the 600X Pro, you have multi-voltage battery plates on the side of the 600X Pro, just like the 600D Pro. This allows you to achieve half output and full output depending on your battery configurations. As you can see on screen right here, you have 14.4 volt 15 amp batteries. 2 of them will give you half output, just like 2 of them will full power a 300D Mark II. 2 26 volt 8.5 amp batteries or 28.8 volt 7.5 amp batteries will also give you half output on the 600X Pro. Basically, you need to achieve 180 watts continuous discharge from each of these V or Gold-on batteries in order to achieve half output on this fixture. Now, if you want to achieve full output on this fixture using 2 batteries, the battery market is going to be pretty scarce for you right now, to be completely honest. I know a lot of battery manufacturers are working on batteries that will be able to supply power for this light, but in the meantime, these are the specs you're going to need. 2 26 volt 18 amp batteries or 2 28.8 volt 16 amp batteries. Basically batteries that are able to deliver 360 watts each. Now the math actually says 28.8 volt at 15 amps for 360 watts, but I do want to advise you to leave a little bit of headroom if possible. You always want more headroom when it comes to your battery continuous discharge. And just like the 600D Pro, the 600X Pro has the ability to charge your V and Gold mount batteries when it is plugged into AC power, whether the light is on or off. Just look at the manual to see exactly which settings you have to maintain in order to charge it while your light is powered on. And just like the 600D Pro, you have 48 volt 3-pin XLR input for power on the bottom. This allows you to charge via block batteries and high output battery power stations. I know for a fact that several battery manufacturers are working on batteries that are going to be able to power lights like the 600X Pro and any other lights that we may be coming out with a similar power draw through the 3-pin XLR 48 volt input. So just stay tuned. I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot about these types of batteries at Cinegear and NAB. And of course, lastly, this is something the 600D Pro does not have yet, but the 600X Pro does have. It has the ability to wake up batteries after they have been put to sleep. So batteries may go to sleep for any reason, because you set them to sleep, or because you've overloaded their discharge capability, and therefore they have gone into a protective state. This wake up battery function, when plugged into AC power, trickle charges the battery and basically wakes it up, tells it that it's okay to remove itself from its protective mode. And lastly, for the 600X Pro itself, we're going to talk about build quality and the design of the light. So just like the 600D Pro has waterproof fans, a connector for a weatherproof cable, in this case a 7.5 meter weatherproof head cable, a curved yoke for mounting larger modifiers like the F10 Fresnel, and something we're going to be announcing very, very soon, a 600 watt blended bicolor chipset at the front of the 600X Pro, and of course a Bowens mount that allows you to mount all of these different modifiers to the light. And of course, as you can see right now, the 600X Pro is in a rolling junior stand because it has a dual junior baby pin that allows you to mount on C-stands or combo stands. For the most part, especially when you're using the heavier modifiers like the F10 Fresnel or a larger softbox, you do want to be using the junior pin and putting it in a heavy duty combo stand just so you're safe on set. Moving on to the control box. The control box has the connector for the weatherproof head cables, of course, coming out of it, and every other connector on the 600X Pro control box has a rubber cap to make sure that it is protected from the elements. It is virtually identical to the 600D Pro, save for the additional CCT control knob that, of course, actually allows you to utilize CCT presets throughout the light. Just basically tap it to access 2700, 3200, 4300, 5600, and 6500 Kelvin color temperature presets. Everything else is basically the same as the 600D Pro, including the connector for the weatherproof head cable, which again is now 7.5 meters long. We heard you, we made it longer because we know that you need to get this guy really high on your call combo stands. Of course, you also have the heavy-duty paracord strap, heavy-duty build, aluminum. Everything else is identical to the 600X Pro, save for the carbon fiber styling of the top plate, including the waterproof fan, lightning clamp quick release plate, metal feet on the back for support, adaptive brightness LCD display, easy access menu buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, intensity control knob, CCT control knob, and of course, the power button. And let's not forget the most important feature of any Lightstorm product, Bowens mount compatibility. The Lightstorm 600X Pro is a Bowens mount light. I can easily remove this reflector to attach any other Bowens mount modifier like the F10 Fresnel, like the Light Dome Mark II, the Light Dome SE, the Spotlight mount. This universal Bowens mount allows it to be compatible with a whole host of accessories, just like the ones I'm going to mention right here. The F10 Fresnel is the perfect accessory to pair with the 600X Pro, just like with the 600D Pro. It turns this small point source Bowens mount light into a large studio standard 10-inch Fresnel, matching things like a Studio 2K or a Tungsten 5K that you bring out onto the field. The F10 Fresnel with the 600X Pro is able to increase its illuminance all the way up to 18,510 lux at a distance of 3 meters away, and that is not too shy of the 29,300 lux of the 600D Pro with the F10 Fresnel as well. So together you're able to get a significant amount of output and the additional flexibility of having a bi-color unit. You're able to fine-tune every single color in between with this Fresnel combo. The F10 Fresnel has a 15 to 45 degree spot flood variable beam angle, so that pairs well with the 600X Pro as well, able to shrink down their beam angle and increase the intensity. That's how you get that 18,510 lux. And it's able to do this efficient conversion of light because it has a dual optical lens design within the F10 Fresnel, first collimating the light and then expanding that light onto the F10 Fresnel before it gives you that nice Fresnel-like quality. And of course, with the ears on the F10 Fresnel, you're able to not only house the F10 barn doors, but also 13-inch scrims. Now, speaking of the F10 barn doors, these are designed to perfectly complement the F10 Fresnel and really turns the 600X Pro into a proper tungsten studio unit because it's able to shape the quality of light that comes out of this large glass Fresnel. This barn door set has 8 adjustable leaves. That means in addition to the top and side leaves, each of these side leaves has helper flags that allows you to expand the reach of the barn doors. And it also includes a safety cable, just a little bit nicer and a little bit more elegant than the chains of old that you would see on some of your traditional filament lights. The safety cable is a little bit nicer to handle. And the F10 barn doors also comes with a black reflector dish. So if you don't want to mount it directly onto the F10 for now and you want even sharper shadows, the black reflector dish will actually allow you to mount the barn doors directly onto the light, and then you're able to cut the point source of the 600X Pro directly instead of having it first pass through a larger sheet of glass that makes the overall light source larger and therefore a little bit softer. And the 600X Pro is not only compatible with Aputure bonus mount accessories, it's compatible with a whole host of bonus mount accessories from all over the industry, especially from our industry partners like Chimera. Chimera makes a large variety of softboxes, a lot of them with speed rings, and any of these speed ring softboxes can be used with a bonus mount speed ring, just like you see on screen. As long as you have a bonus mount speed ring, you can reuse any of these old speed ring style Chimera softboxes with the 600X Pro. And not only Chimera, the 600X Pro also works with modifiers from our brand partner, DOP Choice. Now, DOP Choice got into the bonus mount softbox game once we introduced the LS600D Pro, and the quality of their modifiers is pretty much second to none. They have their Rabbit Rounder Snapback Medium, which is a medium-sized rectangular softbox that can mount onto any bonus mount fixture like the 600X Pro or the 600D Pro. They also have the Rabbit Rounder Snapback Octa 5, which is a 5-foot octabank that is of impeccable quality that you can mount onto, again, the 600X Pro directly using their bonus mount speed ring. And they have the rabbit ears adapter with T-bar. This adapter allows you to mount 2 bonus mount lights into their rabbit ears frame that's used for panels, and then use that with any of their rabbit ear snapback softboxes. So basically, you can mount 2 600X Pros together into one of these adapters and get 1200 watts of bicolor point source power into a snapback Octa 5 from DOP Choice, and it is an excellent showcase of how you can use bonus mount light sources together. But DOP Choice is not the only manufacturer to bring a 150 centimeter softbox to the game. That's right, you saw it in the teaser. We are now introducing the Light Dome 150 alongside the LS600X Pro. This is something that we've been working on for a little while because everyone has been asking for a larger version of the Light Dome Mark II, and that's exactly what this is. The Light Dome 150, as the name implies, is a 150 centimeter circular softbox that's about 4.9 feet, 59 inches in diameter, all the way across from edge to edge. So hopefully this answers everything that everyone's been asking for. When you're trying to cover large spaces or large areas in large groups of people, you're going to want something like this Light Dome 150 that it's able to wrap around your talent or provide coverage over a larger area than a 3-foot softbox is able to handle on its own. And like the Light Dome Mark II, the Light Dome 150, of course, comes with 2 fabric diffusion options. That is a 1.5 stop diffusion and a 2.5 stop diffusion. And alongside the Light Dome Mark II, the Light Dome Mini Mark II, and the Light Dome SE, the Light Dome 150 obviously comes with a fabric light control grid to allow you to control that large, wrappy, soft source and really narrow that beam angle down to a 45-degree beam angle to make sure that you're directing the soft light in the direction that you want it to go. And now, for the moment you've finally been waiting for, pricing and availability. The Lightstorm 600X Pro comes in at $1990, just $100 more than the Lightstorm 600D Pro, and the Light Dome 150 comes in at $269, just $50 more than the Light Dome Mark II, meaning you get significantly more softness for just a little bit more expense. Pre-orders for both of these products are now open through us and our authorized dealers as of August 10th, 2021, and we should begin shipping them in Q4 of 2021. Now, as a note, please be kind and patient with your dealers. Everyone has been working really hard to get you new and existing products in as timely of a manner as possible. And the past few years have not made shipping logistics and manufacturing any easier. But as our gift to you, and as a thank you for being patient with us and your dealers, during the pre-order phase of the LS600X Pro, any pre-order of the Lightstorm 600X Pro will be accompanied by an Aputure MW waterproof mini LED light, completely free of charge. Now, thank you, everyone. But wait, there's one more thing. That's right, alongside the announcement of the LS600X Pro and the Light Dome 150, for the first time in a very, very long time, we are doing a price adjustment on 3 of our flagship lights in the Lightstorm product line. That's right, the 300D Mark II, the 120D Mark II, and the LS300X. The LS300D Mark II was previously $1099, the 120D Mark II was previously $745, and the LS300X bicolor light was $1199. So now, effective today, August 10th, 2021, the 300D Mark II is now $949, the 120D Mark II is $545, and the LS300X is $999, coming in at just under $1,000. So why are we doing this? Even as Aputure continues to grow and create professional-level fixtures with high-end features like lumen radio, ArtNet control, and weather-resistant build quality, we still want to honor the part of the market and the filmmakers who helped us become who we are. The indie filmmakers, the content creators, the videographers, the E&G filmmakers. All of you helped shape Aputure into what we are today, and we want to continue to support that vision and continue the democratization of the lighting industry. So this is our gift to you, all you indie filmmakers. And with that, this has been the announcement of the Lightstorm 600X Pro and LightDome 150. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, the conversation doesn't end here. In the description below, you can find links to the global Aputure user group as well as regional Aputure user groups to continue the conversation with your fellow filmmakers. I'm Brandon from the A-Team. See you next time.